So now that the Zaku's are out of the way, it's time to move on to the big boy. Yeah, this was the largest perfect grade that Bandai ever did for quite a long time. Really, I would say it was not until possibly the Strike Rouge, but I would say more realistically it was probably not until the 00 Riser, 00, or whatever the hell it's called. The thing from Gundam 00 that I'm not especially attracted to as a design. I don't really care for it, but I'm probably still going to get it just because I'm working on all of them. Technically, the GP01 perfect grade was larger because it did come in a larger box. It did have more parts, but it could only use half of them at any given time because it was convertible between ground type mode and space type mode. So you would end up with, you know, all the ground type armor parts just hanging around whenever you're displaying it in space type mode. So it was kind of I don't really count it. I still consider this the largest of the early perfect grades. This is the Zeta Gundam. Ha ha ha. Yes, this is quite large. Yeah, this is it comes with a damn carry handle. That's how big this thing is. This is like a small suitcase. You would have to check this with like your suitcase luggage if you were to fly with this thing. Yeah, let's see what we got. So yeah, that's a big box. As big as the perfect grade RX-78 and Zaku boxes were, this one is bigger in every dimension. Yeah, it's about 1.5 inches longer, about 3 inches taller, and I would say half an inch thicker. That is a mighty big box. Very similar in style to the RX-78 and the Zaku's, just Zeta Gundam emblazoned on the front in nice embossed metallic lettering. Has the type of mobile suit and the faction, has the mobile suit model number, pilot, height, weight, 19.8 meters. It's pretty tall. Full road weight. Yeah, nice to see that even on a perfect grade they can't manage to get away from the English. Gundalium Gamma. Yeah. Generator output, thruster generator output, armaments, beam rifle, beam saber, Vulcans, grenade pack, and shield. Yeah, pretty typical of early perfect grades. Also pretty typical, has the specs for the actual model in terms of like height, weight, number of parts, number of like specialized parts, LEDs, etc., springs, and whatever else it includes. I believe this one has quite a few springs involved in the transformation. Underside has similar specs as on the front: pilot, weight, mass, weapons, etc. Just some more information than was on the other side. And then finally on the box back, we just have some line art drawings of the Zeta in both modes. And yes, this one is fully transformable. Full perfect transformation. So, enough about the box, let's see what's in her. Okay. Inside the box, you get 2 more boxes. These are similar in size to a large master grade model each. Each one is basically half the dimensions of the large box. But yeah, this is the kind of box that you would get like a master grade Verka new Gundam. Like those same dimensions, and there's 2 of them. So yes, this is very, very mighty. This is, as with the Zaku's and the RX-78, this is the first chance you would ever really get to have a look at the model, since there's no specific box art. So yeah, you would get to see the completed mobile suit mode, Box doesn't really have anything else on it, just says Perfect Grade Zeta Gundam on all sides. Other box has the Wave Rider in a atmospheric flight setting. So we are going to start with box number 1. I am designated this one box number 1 just arbitrarily. Okay. Clear back stickers. That's a lot of them. Separated into 2 halves, basic markings, so this would be like your no steps, your unit numbers, very specific types of markings, whereas this would be more optional stuff like you've got your AEUG and Anaheim Electronics logos, your unit numbers. There's some remove before flight stickers, which is kind of a surprise. Some additional no-step, walkway, and some safety warning stripes. So you've got 5 LEDs total. Looks like 2 in red, 3 in green. As memory serves, this thing lights up in a lot of places. As I believe the eyes, the wingtips, the cockpit in Wave Rider mode, the tail boom, and I can't remember the last one. Oh, I guess, yeah, there'd be 2 for the wingtips. So probably 1 red, 1 green for the wingtips, 1 green for the eyes, 1 green for the cockpit, 1 red for the tail boom. In addition, somewhere in here, I believe there's a specialized LED/beam saber unit and battery for a light-up beam saber, but I'm not sure where that is. I got some metallic foil-backed stickers. These would be for light channels for the wingtips and possibly for the eyes as well. And some wire. That's quite a lot of wire. That's about 18 inches in gray and black worth of wire, so that's a fair bit. First up for actual parts, we got the E-Runner. There's 2 of this one. You got some frame parts for the leg. There's a U-shaped channel that functions as a linkage or kind of a cam for the transformation. So as you bend the knee backwards, it kind of folds the rest of the knee up, as I recall. You got some forearm armor, some shoulder armor parts. This is the armor panel shell for the forearm mounted grenade magazine. This is kind of a rack, I believe, that slides into that mechanism, so you would dock the magazine here and then slide it forward, and then this panel would open and it would kind of reveal the actual grenades. It's pretty cool. Some neat mechanical detail on the underside of some of these parts. This one actually has like lots of really cool mechanical detail under there. Yeah. The requisite chrome parts. This, as with my Zaku's, will all be stripped. Ankle stuff, I think. These are all on ball joints. These all fit into a poly cap that is exposed, that is going to be a huge pain in the ass to paint, and I don't know how I'm going to do that. I'm working on some experiments, trying to find out how to make that work, but so far, no dice. Other than that, there's just a bunch of other stuff. I think these are for the feet. I think these are for the... I think these might actually be for the grenades in the forearms, probably knees, more knee stuff, and yeah, hard to say exactly what's what. The L1 and L2 runners, they look pretty close to identical, but they are mirror images of each other. So we'll just take a look at one. So this would be where the wing, like this would be the wing root. This would form like the major belly of the Wave Rider mode. So this part would kind of dock around the body. I think an arm kind of fits into this cavity in flight mode. And the whole thing is on like a multi-hinged linkage that folds around the body. Like I said, it is perfect transformation, so the wings do not need to be detached. I have built one of these before, quite a few years ago, and it is entirely possible to run the linkages around the body without removing any parts. This is also would be the landing gear bay for the main wing skids, landing skids. I think there's some channels in here for some wire. Looks like right there, because there's a little pop-out, basically a plug right here that folds out, has two little contact points on it that plugs into the shield which contains the batteries for the wings. The wings have LEDs in them, but they don't contain batteries, so you would flip a switch on the nose cone, which becomes the shield, and that would light up both wings at the same time. It's a pretty neat system, actually. It enables the wings to be a little bit more compact than they might otherwise be. Clear parts. So you've got the forehead sensors. That's probably a sensor for the beam rifle. These would be the wingtip lights. The tail boom lights. Notice it's got kind of a serrated edge on the inside face, so it catches a little bit of extra light and glows a little more brightly. This would be the light channel for the eyes inside the head. And these ones I'm not quite sure. This is probably the forehead crest. I think there might be like an extra light channel inside the forehead. Possibly. Not totally sure. The system injected runner, so you got our fingers, same way as they did the RX-78 and the Zaku, and this would be a linkage for the wrist. So you've got the hydraulic pistons captive inside there, allowing the wrist kind of a funky movement. But this one actually added an extra feature. This is the eyes. You can see they're molded partly in clear. So rather than like the RX-78 where the entire eye lens was clear and you had to either put a sticker around it or paint it, this one has molded it in two parts in system injected. So you can see the clear lens straight through. They did the same thing with the Wing Zero and I believe the Strike and Astray. I'm not sure if they've done that really recently. I think the Unicorn actually had separate clear lenses for the eyes. The A1 runner is the face, which is quite a departure from the original Gundam. Does not have the red chin, does not have the twin inverted V-shaped vents. This is one of the very few named Gundams that does not have the more typical Gundam face. Also, you got the forehead crest, side of the armor, side and rear panels for the head, front, forehead, or basically this is all head stuff. Vulcans, collar, housings around the vents. You've also got your front skirts, armor panels for the hands, center skirts section, and I believe this is part of the tail boom. This is the A1 runner. The A2 runner has the complete rear skirt, which surprisingly less articulated than I would expect. The entire thing is one module as opposed to each of these panels being separated, but whatever, that's probably for stability's sake, because a lot of stuff has to be kind of snapped in with this kind of docking it in place. Like there's a latch in here. I believe that a hip panel when in transformed mode has to dock into. Also, you've got the midsection. These kind of spring in and compress when transforming it, and then when you untransform the torso back into mobile suit mode, these kind of pop out on springs. It's really neat. And these are the shoulder panels. The arms mount to these panels. We've got two of the P runner. Hips, grenade magazine, parts of the lower legs, I think, part of the feet. If you'll notice, though, the grenade magazine is actually quite cool on detail. Like there's inset detail in there for each of the grenades in the magazine. I remember when I built one of these before, I kind of wanted to take one of these and like drill out a couple of grenades so it looked like that it had fired a couple, but I never did. In addition, this is the actual carriage that the grenades kind of dock into. So this fits into this space, and then these push forward and these two pop out. So each of these, there's 16 grenades on here, plus 2 more stored pre-existing in the wrist. You've got some additional shoulder mechanical stuff, Lots of neat conduit detail on the inside of the shoulder there, because there's some thrusters built in, so it's neat that they added a lot of venting and whatnot. Here's that's another neat vent. It's cut through so you can actually see through the inside. Yeah, a lot of neat venting and detail on here. We've also got 2 of the Sea Runner. So you've got some armor parts for the lower legs. I believe this is a shroud for the thruster on the back of the thigh. This is the knee. This is a flip-out panel above the foot. Front of the upper leg. Some adjustable panels here and there. Side skirts. The collar for the wrist. There's some neat inset detail in there as well. It would respond really nicely to a wash. Yeah, also got some molded detail on the underside, some structural ribbing and stuff. I really like when they do that. It's too bad they've kind of not done that very much in a while. This is the X-Runner. These are polycaps. There's 2 of them. Holy crap. There are 81 individual designed polycaps on here. Much like most perfect grades, several of them have more than one. There's 4 of 31. There's, okay, surprisingly few have multiple. There's 2 of 57, 3 of 57, there's 2 of 58. There's 2 of 36, 2 of 35. That's just per runner. That is a lot of polycaps. Holy crap. Now, I would imagine not every one of these would get used, because obviously, like, you'll need all 8 of these, because like there's 4 on each leg. But there's probably a few areas where, like on the center line, where you would only use like 1 of number 80, or 1, or this is 60, and 1 of 61, for example. But anywhere that one of these would go on a limb, you would obviously need to use the same part off both runners. So that is a hell of a lot of polycaps. So 81 individual designs. It's probably 200 polycaps in this set that actually get used. So yeah, that's something. We've got 2 of Runner M. This would be the wing inserts. So these would fold out. They'd kind of slide out of the main wing backpack unit, and then the red wingtips kind of slip out of these a little bit more. You've also got, I believe, you've also got the beam saber. This is the complete beam saber. So there's a ball jointed peg, would fit into a slot in the palm. You've got the emitter and then the pommel. I believe this is part of the rear knee and some venting parts. I'm not quite sure. Hey, beam saber blades, Runner Z. This is the newer style that I believe they introduced with this model. The previous RX-78 Perfect Grade used, let's see, I've got one right here, kind of a fatter, dumpier looking, stubbier beam saber blade that just wasn't very elegant. This one uses a much more refined, much more streamlined blade that has been used pretty consistently with, I believe, every subsequent Perfect Grade kit. At least everyone that has used a beam saber. I think the Strike and the Astray both did not, because the Strike didn't come with, though the Ale Striker pack did. And the Astray had more specialized blades. I'm sure there's another one in there somewhere that uses specialized blades, but everyone I'm aware of uses another one of these. The U-Runner, again, we've got 2 of. I mentioned before that there's a U-shaped panel on one of the leg parts that kind of cams together with another piece, and this fits into that. So as that U-shaped piece, or as that U-shaped channel, the peg that fits into it, as it moves around that U-shaped channel, it carries this, slides it up. So when it's bending one way, it follows the channel this way. When it's bending the other, it can't slide any farther, so it carries this up with it. It's a really neat mechanism. I really dig it. In addition, we've got some forearm parts, some upper arm parts. These are probably parts of the ankle. I would guess parts of the shoulder armor. This is probably the grenade launcher mechanism. I would say the entire grenade carriage would probably fit into this. And this looks like frames for the lower legs. As memory serves, this one uses the same hydraulic spring mechanism in the ankles as the RX-78. So I believe this part fits inside the lower leg frame and is sprung so that it has a bit of bounce. These are probably also the frame for the shoulders. Okay, that's a lot of springs and screws and metal contact points. So we're going to take a look at each of these individually. They are all labeled, which is something that the Zaku and RX-78 really could have used, because especially the Zaku's, which those springs, or those various screws, were just a nightmare to try to figure out what was what. But it says how many of each type you have, what number they are, and when called for in the instructions, it'll call for number 12 or 15 or 3 or 5 or whatever. So it makes it so much easier. But here you've got a couple of springs for like coil springs. This one has kind of hinge springs, more coil springs. These look like they're probably for the center, the waist that springs out, I would guess. A lot of individual spring out parts. More springs. This is probably a metal contact point for something to do with one of the electronic components. These also would be contact points, as would probably this. This would probably be a spring for some sort of some moving component within the model. Yeah, Jesus, so many freaking springs. More contact points, more contact points, more springs, more springs. Ugh. This baggie has two different types of metal contact points. Units number 18 and 31. So there's 2 of one and 1 of the other. So probably these go somewhere in the wings. This probably goes somewhere in the nose cone. And then there's not a whole lot of screws. There's only 2 baggies with screws, unless I'm missing something. So you got 4 of these wide, flat washer screws, or 5 of them, sorry. And then you've got 26 of these. So these are probably used primarily for like the legs and arms and parts of the torso, just for some additional structural strength. And I don't see any more hiding around here, so that would appear to be all of them. Finally, for this box, this is the instruction manual. We are going to take a look at this at the end when we get to the construction manual. So yes, box number 2. So we got the construction manual. We got a transformation manual. So that's neat that they kept that separated from the other 2 manuals, because yes, this is a very complicated transformation. This is interesting. We got some additional stuff kind of blistered to the. This was stapled to the side of the box and blistered together. We've got the metal landing skids. These are die-cast metal. This is the first time, I believe, that a Perfect Grade has featured die-cast metal parts. But it also comes with a specialized battery. This is a BR-435. I've never seen one of these anywhere else except for in one of these specialized Gundam kits. I mean, if I special ordered one at like a battery direct or something like that, I could probably find one, but I've never seen one anywhere else. But this battery is specifically for this. This is a specialized lit beam saber blade. There's an LED module in the bottom of this thing, and the blade itself, much like one of those clear parts that we saw earlier, has kind of serrated edges along it to catch the light, so that when it's lit up, when you're looking at the blade from the right angle, it catches the light and really glows. It's pretty cool. But the fact that it comes with a battery is really awesome, because this thing takes a lot of them. And yeah, getting all the batteries I needed for this. Well, I did that yesterday and that cost me a couple bucks. The B runner is mostly leg armor parts. So this would be the lower inside leg, this would be the lower outside leg. It has the big vents in the bottom outside of the leg. These are like attitude thrusters and for... but this panel matches up with this space, and this whole thing hinges up. It's pretty neat. The vents themselves also have adjustable louvers, so you can open them and move them around. It's pretty cool. The S runner has, these are all parts of the wing linkage for the transformation. You've got the battery box for the head. So this is where you would fit the CR1220 battery for lighting up the eyes. This is probably the switch for the eyes, I would guess. Some additional linkage parts here and there. Also, you have the structural parts for the hands. This would be another battery box for the tail. This is actually an interesting one. It also uses a CR1220. But this thing, once the tail is assembled, this is kind of locked into place, but you can undo a single screw and then like hinge it up so you can get the battery in and out. It's pretty neat. The Q runner, there's two of. You've got the inner leg mechanical frame parts, outer leg mechanical frame parts. There's a space here for a hinge. I believe this forms part of it, and then there's two poly caps on either side that just kind of fit into this. Here's the adjustable louvers for the vent right here, and there's a linkage right there, so they all are linked together. That would probably be the housing for them when they all fit together. It's a pretty neat. It's a pretty neat leg. I really like it. The D runner has all of the chest parts. So these panels are hinged and open up, so you can get a look at some of the mechanical details inside. This part is also hinged up. That's for the transformation. You've got the center of the codpiece, the center of the chest. These are some shoulder panels that cover over some mechanical detail between the chest and the back, and then this is the back plate itself. The F runner, housings for the ankle thrusters with the louvers. These are for the inside of the ankle thrusters. Just some snap-in detail parts. Here, 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 and here. Some shoulder venting. Then you've got the forehead crest. This is the central section. It does not move, and then the outer section, which does, and it is geared so that as you close one side, the whole thing closes up together. You've got the collar, which slides on and kind of tabs in place, so it's easy to attach. And then you've got housings for the vents in the chest. Runner H, feet. Almost entirely feet. You got the bottom of the feet, you got the top of the foot, the heel. There's this little flip-out heel panel. Never really understood what that was there for, but hey, there it is. And there's some armor panels for the sides of the arms. The R runner. Knee blocks. These are very complicated. There's a lot of shifting stuff in and around here. Like these fit together with it and kind of sit on a rail so that as the knee bends, they kind of slide around. I think like all of this kind of fits together in a really funky way. This is the thruster unit and actual thruster emitter for the back of the lower leg. Not quite sure. I would have guessed these would be part of the knee, but it looks too bulky to be part of the knee, so this might be part of the waist. Yeah, all of this, I can't remember what it's all for. V-runner, this is all the hydraulic cylinders. And there's quite a lot of them. So we've got all of the cylinders for the ankles, which again are on ball joints, which really bothers me because they're ball jointed into polycaps, and polycaps are very difficult to paint. More probably for the feet, you know, knees and arms, etc., etc. But they're all done slide mold style, so they'll have the opening on the end. We got runner I. Again, there's two of. The actual wing tips, these are kind of a scalloped detail panel, fits around the wing. This would be a pop-out panel for the shield, I think. This would be where the contact point would plug in. So if you want to have the contacts closed over in mobile suit mode, you'd have to pop this off then whenever you transformed it. Because, yeah, the shield has just an exposed plug, essentially, on the side of it that the wings plug into. Runner N has the head frame. So I believe these are the Vulcans for the head. There's probably some detail parts for it. The neck, parts of the frame for the torso. No, this would be for the skirt armor. There's space for 5 thrusters on it. And then these would be internal parts for the wings. These are, right here you can see these are channels for the wiring. So when it would be, that would run from the battery box in the shield out to the wingtips when it's all assembled. Runner K, this is primarily the tail boom. So this is the main structure of the tail boom. This looks like it's the base of it, where it mounts onto the body of the mobile suit. But in addition, there's a extra beam saber here. So you've got the hand grip, the emitter, and the pommel. This is the beam saber for the light up mechanism. So there's no ball jointed peg anywhere on here. It actually uses just a snap-on collar with a peg on it that you could just snap on and leave engaged, or, you know, glue in place if you wanted to. But yeah, the inside is all hollowed out so that there's room for the LED unit, which, if I remember correctly, you twist it to turn it on. You know, twist it clockwise to turn it on, anti-clockwise to turn it off. And then the whole thing fits together with a screw in the end once the pommel is engaged. Runner G, mostly shield parts. This would be the main nose cone part of the shield. Like this would be like the tip, and then this would be like the nose portion. This would be the cockpit hatch, the center of the crest for the forehead, some thruster inserts. Strange, I don't think there's actually any like black frame parts to go around these. It's just the red thrusters that always struck me as really weird. Forward nose landing gear. I think this would be the landing skid that would attach to the die-cast part. This would be the part that would fit into the shield when it's engaged. This is for the tail boom. There's a red panel on it, and then this one here as well. The tail boom also has thrusters in it. These openings right here, that would be where the wingtips, or where the wings would plug into. There's metal contacts would fit into here, and then the actual batteries would fit into a battery box that slides into the nose here. So when the wings are attached, they would make contact with the metal contact points inside and actually light the wingtips. Runner O, you've got some skirt armor frames, some chest armor frames, some more chest frames, the hand grip for the beam rifle, the magazine for the beam rifle, the emitter for the beam rifle. I think this is a sliding hatch for the cockpit. Got some more beam rifle frame parts. This all looks like cockpit stuff. This would be the actual pilot seat. Frame parts for the shoulders. And an electrical cable, I believe, for the beam rifle. Runner T. Frame parts for the torso. This would be the rising platform for the head. This whole thing is sprung, so when you lower the chest down, I think it also not only does do the 2 white panels on the side of the abdomen pop open, but the head also pops up, which, if you don't have the head crest engaged properly, like if it's not in the right position, you could actually damage it. I think I did that once. You've also got the lower body assembly, and these are the hip panels. So the actual, these would slot into a polycap somewhere in here. Might be a polycap, might be ABS, I don't recall. But they would hinge out from there and then unfold, and so the hips widen out when it transforms. These are just some linkages here and there. I think this is for the opening panels on the top of the chest. I want to say this might have something to do with the battery box for the nose cone in the shield. The rest of this is all just linkages and stuff. And last but not least, we've got the main armor plate for the shield, the main frame parts, or main structural parts for the beam rifle. This would be the sensor, which is designed to flip up on a spring, and these would be the landing skids for the wings. If memory serves, there are replaceable parts for them that don't have these kind of slots in them, because these slot in on the die-cast part, so they need these as kind of stress relief when they attach. If these holes weren't here, then they'd be much more prone to cracking. So these you can leave attached to the die-cast parts at all times. Oh my. So yeah, I very clearly spoke way too soon about having not too many screws. There's 21 more of them over here, and there's 18 more of them over here. So yeah, there's quite a few. There's also quite a lot more metal contact points and various springs and more springs. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in this thing. I think 32 is the highest number I've seen, so there's like at least 32 of these little baggies. Or 32 like unique components within baggies, because some of them, like this one, has 2 different in it. But anyway, so yeah, metal contact points, spring, metal contact point, spring, 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 metal contact point, contact point, contact point, contact point, spring, more screws. Yeah, this is something. And we haven't even looked at the manuals yet. So instruction manual, full color picture, but same style as with the Gundam and the Zaku's. It opens up to just a ton of photos of the completed model, kind of showing off the detail and features of it. Then you come into kind of a biohistory of the Zeta Gundam itself, starting with the Mark II, then the Hayakushiki, and the Mathus, which are all part of its design lineage. And then you can see here, this is the RX-178 Gundam Mark II's flying armor, which has a very similar profile to the Zeta Gundam's Wave Rider mode. So in universe, this is very obviously where they kind of took the design cues from. This is designed as an atmospheric re-entry module, so the Mark II can survive re-entry, and also acts as a subflight unit while it's in an atmosphere. So here you can see there's some early design line art of the Zeta Gundam as it would appear in universe if this was a design document. Getting into like some optional parts, so like these would have been different types of optional units for the forearm. So you've got like a cannon mount unit, a different types of like a drone unit attachment, and beam saber and chaff dispensers and whatnot, so that the forearm, instead of just having, you know, the grenade unit on the forearm, could have had like optional modules attached to it. Here you've got some design about the legs, and about the transformation, different types of shields that could be used for different purposes, and then information about the characteristics of the unit in flight when returning through an atmosphere. So this would be like a temperature heat map. So you would see the cockpit being right up here would get pretty warm, but not like lethally hot. So it's odd that they would set it here and not here in the blue, where it would be clearly very comfortable temperature. More information about like the cockpit and interfaces. More stuff about the transformation. And then finally, your last page is your paint and marking guide. Back page is just a beauty shot of the Zeta Gundam over... So this would be the Middle East. Instructions, or constructions, I should say. As always, start with your parts callouts. 3 full pages. So, yeah, all your different runners, and then you've got just all your different specialized components, all your springs, all your contact points, everything, as well as your die-cast landing gear, your battery for the beam saber, and the specialized beam saber itself. Construction starts with the arms, and then onto the legs. The legs are very elaborate, so they take up a lot of time. Then moves on to the head and then the torso. As memory serves, the head is not very different from the RX-78. Then final assembly of the body, and then moving on to the tail boom, wings, assembly of the wings. And you can see right here, all of this assembly here, this kind of shows all the different connections in order to make the power. The power supply comes from right here and runs through all of these wires out to the wingtips, so that the LEDs can light up. You can do a quick test. This is the battery that comes with it. You can use that to test the LEDs in the wings. This is the linkage for the wings. And then finally moving on to the beam rifle and shield and beam sabers. And here you can see this is how you assemble the light-up beam saber. So the little tiny battery has a spring on both ends, and you would put a little insulating sleeve, a little rubber insulating sleeve over it, so that it only makes contact in the right way at the right time, and then you twist it to make it work. And then you got your final assembly. The little peg on the beam rifle fits into the palm, same with the beam saber. This one actually has 2 pegs, so there's one here and one here, so that you can adjust the how you would hold the beam sabers. Which is something that I wish the Zaku had. The Zaku only has the one slot. Actually, it's at the base of the palm. I wish it had another one up here, because the position of the peg on the Heat Hawk is not optimal. Yeah, so then you got your final assembly, usage of the grenade launchers, and then your back page is not the same image as on the instruction manual. This is the Zeta Gundam. Looks like it's being refueled either by the Argama or that could be the L'Avion Rose. Hard to say. It actually looks like a space shuttle. If you look at that, that kind of looks like the cargo bay of a modern space shuttle. And finally, so these are the same. I think it's the same images as you would have gotten on the front, the interior box arts. But the transformation starts. You fold up the crest. You widen the shoulders very slightly to unpeg the chest, and then you lift it up. Then you push the head down, narrow the waist. You unpeg the hips, which then unfold. The skirt armor folds down. The hip panels lock into the rear skirt. The arms fold into where the chest was. Then you would unfold the shield. All of the linkages on that so that they peg into the forearms. And then the wings, you unfold those, which, and there's 3, I believe, different connection points where it would peg in to the shield. There's one here in the center that just slots in at the back. There's one at the front which docks with the power connection, and then I think there's one more at the back that locks in somewhere on the body. Then your skirt armors, you would flip around and dock with the side of the the linkages for the wings, and all of those kind of lock together. It actually locks together really, really tightly on the bottom. You have the option of using your landing gear, and then you would fold up the feet and hinge the knees. They have double jointed reversing knees, so you would bend the upper knee backwards, or properly, and then the lower knee you would bend forward, and then that would cam everything together so that all the panels that need to move would move the way they have to. And so you get this kind of neat Z-shaped leg. And then finally your beam rifle collapses, and there's a little peg that flips out so that the whole thing can dock with the body of the Zeta Gundam. Also the tail boom unfolds. There is a little switch on the underside. You flip that switch and that lights up the cockpit as well as the wingtips, and then you're done. That is the transformation. Oh man, I don't know how the hell I'm going to build this thing up north. I don't know if I'm going to have time to build this thing up north. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Yeah, this thing is pretty elaborate. This is pretty complicated. I mean, 2 full-sized runners of polycaps. I didn't even count how many runners this thing came with. It's gotta be, 35. I think it gets up to runner Z. Where did the instructions go? Let's take a look at this. Yeah, you got A through Z, Z being the beam sabers, plus there's WA, which is the system injected runner, and there's 2 of several of these. There's 2 of C, there's 2 of E, there's 2 of H, there's 2 of I. Yeah, by my math, that means there would be 37 runners in this set. Wow. And dozens of additional little metal pieces. Holy crap. This is gonna be an adventure. And I mean, once I get this thing, maybe I shouldn't take this thing up north with me, because getting it back in one piece is gonna be a chore. Yeah, flying with this thing and having it not break is going to be difficult. I don't know, maybe I should just not take it and build it here instead, but we'll see. Yeah, I can understand why for many, many years people rated this as the best Gundam model ever made. Just because, like, for its size, for its detail, for its parts count, what did it say? 825 pieces? I'm not sure if that's plastic parts or if that is including all of the metal, connection pieces. But yeah, this is something. This is going to be a chore. Yeah, I think I've just talked myself out of taking this with me. That's where I'm going to leave this for now. Do stay tuned for this channel and my Twitter for any updates on the build. Next month, we're going to be taking a look at the Wing Zero Custom Perfect Grade. That was the first Perfect Grade I ever did. It's the one I've done the most of. I've built... Actually, well, it's tied with the RX-78 and the Zaku for the largest number of that particular model I've built. I think I've done it 3 times. So this will be a trip. I'm looking forward to that one, because that one is a departure. That one is a real departure from the more conventional, like more so even than the Zaku was from the RX-78, because they still share a lot of design cues in common, like the hips especially. They have the similar kind of hydraulic systems in the hips, and overall assembly and design is very similar, but the Wing Zero is very different from anything before or since. So I'm dying to show that one off. So stay tuned for that. I'll probably have some other stuff up in the meantime. I might do a review of the 2 Zakus when I have them done, compare them to my my classic battle damaged Zaku that I did several years ago. I did want to have some photos of that up in the Zaku review, but I didn't get a chance to take any before. I have taken some now. Do check out my Instagram for that. I'll have that, as I said, linked down below. But I will show it off if I ever get around to doing the assembled review of the green Zaku, which actually you can see right there, the one that I reviewed last month. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That one was a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to doing the Shaw version next. So thank you everyone out there for watching. I'm intimidated. Yeah, this thing's got me nervous. Happy modeling.